NTV, turning on your world.
All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you on this Thursday morning. I hope that you're set for the day. Welcome to the show. This is Your World, and my name is Winnie Lumbam. And of course, Zainab Ismail just finished a conversation on unemployment. And of course, the rate of unemployment in the country, where according to, KNBS report that was released. And of course, this was in yesterday's paper. 67% of Kenya's jobless give up on the work search. And of course, this is a very big concern in the country, but at the same time, we also want to focus on another concern, that in as much as there are some people who are really struggling as far as unemployment is concerned, there's also another group of young people especially who are struggling with, of course, the whole question about instant gratification. And we want to understand, so then how do we manage instant gratification? And this is as far as to boost our financial health, because as we all know, in our area of instant gratification, it is too easy to spend hard-earned cash, and of course much harder to save money. Our credit card information is saved directly on our phones or devices, and we can shop virtually anytime from anywhere. And of course, there are shopping carts on every website, happily holding on to every item that we have ever been vaguely interested in buying. So we first buy and then we pay for it later. So the question is, how did we become a generation that wants things now, no matter what? That is what we want to figure out. And of course, how do we also build on our financial discipline so that we do not get ourselves to that point of we do not have the money because we have spent on items that we don't really necessarily need at that particular moment. So we have a question for you, and of course it's a very simple question, and the question is, so then how do we build financial discipline in this instant gratification era? Once again, the question is, how do we build financial discipline? And of course, in this instant gratification era, it's very easy in terms of how you can reach us. Our social media handles are at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Or better yet, give us a call, and of course we'll be happy to pick your call and get to understand what exactly is your concern when it comes to this whole question about instant gratification, and you need the money now. So it's very easy on how you can reach us, and that is, how do we build financial discipline in this instant gratification era, where, like I said, we all want things and we want them now. It doesn't matter whether we have the money or not. Okay, how do we build financial discipline in this instant gratification era? Like I said, at NTV Kenya is how you can reach us, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and of course we look forward to what you have to say. Of course, I have a couple of feedback from you, so of course we'll continue to sample them as we continue with the conversation. And a number of you, there's some who are saying, Sister, there's nothing to first of all save so that we have extra to buy the things that we want. There's some people who are saying it's difficult, and especially with social media, where everybody is posting everything and we want what we see on social media. But at the same time, there's also this concern about having your mobile banking, you have the digital lending apps on your phone. All right, does it make it also difficult for you to establish your financial muscle or discipline, so that you know how to manage your finances? We have the perfect panel to help us with that conversation today. And of course, on my immediate left, we have Anne Stella Mumbi. She's not new in this show, but just in case you have forgotten her face, she's the Global Director for Growth at Tala. It's so good to see you this morning.
Amazing to be
How
back.
are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
We were saying, do we start with Happy New Year, Happy Birthday?
It's never too late.
Right?
Provided it's like first half of the year,
Right?
you can still say Happy New Year.
We're in the second quarter, but it's fine. It's so good to see you, Karibu Sana, to the show. And of course, we also have Juliet Sospita, who's a certified financial analyst here in studio to help us us with that conversation as well. Juliet, it's good to meet you. Karibu sana, first time on the show, right?
First time on the
Karibu
show.
sana. How are you feeling?
A bit nervous, but I'll be fine.
You're okay. You look lovely. Both of you
Thank
look
you.
lovely, so
Thank
you're in the
you.
right place.
Thank
And of course,
you.
you're also the perfect person to help us understand. So then how do we build our financial discipline? Because sometimes it's hard. I'm just going to confess. Sometimes it's a little bit hard, but we try. But Mumbi, let me start with you. Those are reports that was released by Tala, right? And this is, the March 2023 report that says half of Kenyan consumers, are borrowing more compared to 6 months ago. That's the first concern, all right? And then the second one is, there are some who are using more than 3 digital lending apps at once. What is happening? Let's just start from there.
I'd say the long and short of it is it's been a tough year.
Okay.
I think what we've seen happen since the last half of last half of 2022, moving into this year, is increasing inflation.
Okay.
We're seeing levels of inflation that haven't been seen in a very long time worldwide, and this is starting to impact Kenyans. If you can see the impact every day if you go to the supermarket, or if you're trying to fuel, or even if you're paying fare. Costs are actually going up. But what is not happening as costs are going up is income is not increasing. So how do Kenyans meet the income deficit that they're starting to have? That's why you see people starting to borrow more. However, one thing that surprised me a lot in this Money March report, and just for context to everyone, this is a report that we've been doing every year for the last 2 years. But we've been having Money March, which is a personal finance month and consumer awareness month for the last 4 years. So if you compare trends from last year to this year, people are borrowing more, but when you ask them what's your highest expenditure, they were saying savings. So that for me was very, very confusing because people are borrowing. However, they're saying that they're ideally paying themselves fast, which is saving, and actually would borrow to even pay their chama or borrow to pay their sacco. So that's what we learned, and is a trend we are starting to understand. But it seems that in this, hard times, Kenyans are thinking about how do I make sure I put some money aside for emergencies, and if this situation actually continues.
Gets worse. And of course, again, what the government told us is like, it's not going to get easier soon. Of course, it will take some bit of time and a bit of adjustments here and there just to make sure that we survive this period, and of course, you'll tell us then how do we do that. But I want to bring you in, Juliet, in this case. Yes, things are tough right now, right? And we're trying, because again, like Mumbi said, the income is not increasing, right? We still have maybe the same income, side hustle hapa inakata kidogo, pale inakata kidogo, so you have to survive with what you have. But at the same time, it's like we're struggling to meet our basic needs. And then there's also another group of people who, yes, things are tough, but I can't control where my money goes. Maybe this and all those things. So again, what would you attribute this to?
Okay. So first of all, I just on what Stella has said with regards to inflation being all-time highs in the longest time, and yes, like a lot of conversation on the street right now is how can I be able to sustain myself, let alone just save, just being able to sustain myself and live within my means. So first we have how I look at it is from an abundance mindset. So being able to create value and you getting paid for it. So it can be in form of employment. So ask yourself, if I am employed, then how can I add more value to my employer for me to earn more money, for me to be promoted, to be able to earn an extra income? When you're looking at business, you ask yourself, like, how can I expand my business to earn that extra money for that? And also it also boils down to living within your means. And for this, there's this book, and I'd recommend everyone to read it, The Millionaire Next Door. And the author talks about like he describes the people who have been successful in having like successful in their wealth, in terms of growing their wealth. And he says that one of them, they live within their means, and the second one is that they believe in financial independence. They believe that financial independence is more important than displaying social status. And I also believe that that is where most people, in terms of now the topic of instant gratification, that is like where most people go wrong. So for instance, on social media, in this era of social media, I go to social media, I see people posting very nice houses, very nice cars, and I want to live up to that standard. So you end up spending more in terms of squeezing the little income that you have just to try and fit that standard. So what I believe is the journey to financial freedom or financial independence, it entails or demands discipline. You being able, it requires small things such as you having a budget, you know, tracking your expenses, and just living within your means.
And that's the thing. And then I wanted to follow up on the same. This is living within your means. Because a lot of people sometimes struggle with this. Like, what exactly does that mean? And that is when you say live within your means, right? But do you want to take that? And then I'll come back to you to understand. Yes, it's good to push yourself, you know, go a little bit extra so that you make yourself not relevant, but you know, so that like what you're saying, you can earn a promotion, you can earn, you know, something here, something there, but businesses are telling you, listen, it's also bad out here. Okay. So then what do you do? But then living within our means, what exactly does that mean? Because it's relative.
It's very relative, and it's also a very complicated concept more generally, because we also live in a country where we have 60% of Kenyans living, you know, ideally below the poverty line, so they're already experiencing incomes that cannot sustain their lives. But that aside, I think for me it always comes back to budgeting. Because it's a question of how much income am I getting, and if you're salaried, then it means you're getting a certain set of, you know, your consistent income is very clear to you, so you can clearly understand, you know, X percent of my salary should always go to this and that and that. And there's some very hard and fast rules that different financial advisors have set up over the years. One that I always mention is, if I was to think about the level of prioritization, it's 20% to 30% pay yourself, put it in savings. Then next, clear your bills so that you're having a peaceful month. And then plan for your fun. I always say that, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of Kenyans don't do, and especially young Kenyans. And then later it surprises you, because it's very okay to plan for the different facets of your life that improve your quality of life. So it's just around planning, and when you plan, then ideally you end up living within your means, because you're not really having any surprises. And when you come back to that 20 to 30% that you set aside for savings, then you can even break that down further into, you know, you have your emergency bucket, you have your long-term savings bucket, you have your risky investments bucket, if you're able to split it that way. And as such, you find that even when you have an emergency, it doesn't cause an income shock to you. You're able to easily pull something. So it just becomes one of those things around, if you're able to build a behavior of planning and budgeting, then it helps you to live within your means.
That takes a bit of time and discipline.
But what I always say, Winnie, is I think people think about budgeting in a very, very complicated way, because in the past we've been told about, like, you know, you have this Excel sheet with all your costs. I don't think it needs to be that complicated, right? Most of it can even be mental math, because you know, every time my rent will always be 30K, my elec will always be 5,000, so you already know these things. So it's just putting it in very simple buckets. You can even write it to yourself on your WhatsApp group, and you plan.
That's so true, because again, and there's some people who are able to do, you know, the whole Excel thing, and it totally works for them. I looked at it at some point and I became intimidated. I was like, listen, okay, you know what, the mental note that you said, I think
it works.
It works. Absolutely works. So live within your means, absolutely important. Budget, know, you know, all those things. And I like the fact that you also said, also budget for fun. Because then, so that you're not, you know, in shock, you compare higher, you know, do 1, 2, 3 and all those things. But, okay, so those ones who are saying, listen, now things are difficult. Akunata hiyo budget for fun. It is not here anymore. I try to budget, but sometimes I find myself deviating a little bit from, you know, my budget. So then how do we maneuver all those things before we come back to the whole conversation about then instant gratification and what we see around us?
All right. And just to add what Stella has already said, so yes, budget really works, but it just doesn't stop there. There's another facet to it, you being able to track your expenditure. So this is what happens. At the beginning of the month, you do your budgeting. Then at the end of the month, you have to ask yourself, okay, fine, I had budgeted for maybe this amount of money. Then how have I really used it? You know, how have I kept my budget as it was supposed to be. And then that's when now you can try to adjust. So let me give you an example. So for instance, you had budgeted maybe 10,000 for whatever needs, wants, and you know, savings that you had. And then at the end of the month, you realize I have a deficit, or I had like an extra cash that's out of my budget, I had. So the beauty about that is that the next month you can be able to adjust according to how you spent the previous month, and that is how it works. So it just doesn't stop at, okay, I have a budget, now that's it. No, it goes an extra mile by you saying, now I need to audit. It's actually auditing my own finances and saying, have I been on track, or have I deviated? And you're just trying to adjust based on that.
And I think a bit of flexibility, right?
Precisely,
a bit of flexibility will help you. Okay, so we literally have like 2 minutes to go on a break. Time flies. But you know, now that we're focusing on instant gratification, there's a statement that I came across and I thought that was very interesting, and they're saying anything that gives us temporary happiness or excitement but is not actually a good thing for your life, all right, can be put in this category of instant gratification. So I'm just curious, like, so what are some of those things that we can put? Because again, Mumbi, remember you said, budget for fun. So what are some of those things that we can put in this category of instant gratification? And first of all, what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question, right? Because my personal philosophy is that different people have different things that make them happy.
Yes.
So I think, provided, sorry, I'm gonna really just go back to the planning. But I think provided you set aside money for the things that make you happy, then that is fine.
All right.
So, for example, if you like to shop, or if you like to travel, or if you like to take part in a certain sport, if you like sherehe, you know, you just plan for it. And if you set the money aside, of course, within your means, and to her point, you're able to actually stick to that amount that you've set aside, then you're cutting down on the instant gratification. Because I think the narrative has been that a lot of young people are, quote unquote, living beyond their means. And you find that where the whole idea of instant gratification comes in is where you're doing the things that make you happy, even if it's for a minute, but you're doing it outside of your means. So that for me is my understanding of instant gratification. So I think it could still be the same things that we're saying you can plan for as fun, but if you do it in a way that is not, you know, it's outside of that, then that becomes instant gratification.
And we see that a lot, because sometimes, again, like you're saying, yes, you have a budget, right? You try to stick, you know, to your budget, but Mumbi calls, Abba Juliet calls and say, hey, listen, by the way, Tunenda, we're planning to go, you know, somewhere. I had planned for fun, but not, I would say, that particular expense, right? Maybe I had planned like 5,000 shillings for maybe fun, and then Mumbi calls, Abba Juliet calls and said, listen, Pali Tunenda, we might need like around 10K. So I'm thinking, see, I had already planned for 5K, right? And then there's this extra 5K where I now go to my digital lending app, right? And get that from there. So this is what we're saying. This should not happen. Have a plan and stick to it. If there's something that maybe needs a bit of adjustments here and there, you can do, but not go, again, beyond what you had planned for.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
To some sense, yes. And I would say what is actually very interesting about Ala that most people don't know is 70% of our borrowing is actually for businesses. So that's usually quite interesting, because it's not a trend that we've seen a lot of. We see maybe 30% being for personal reasons, but 70% is for businesses. And even as I say that, you find that you know, it's not that entire 70% of people that are actually business owners. Most Kenyans have side hustles. So you find that they're actually taking Tala loans to fund their side hustles, which in turn increases their income. So I just wanted to also share that, because I think it's been a very interesting trend, and every Money Match report we've done over the last 2 years actually shows that similar trend. All right. So then what would you say informs this kind of spending behavior? I mean, that is
interesting to see, but I still have a question on the same. So then what would you say informs this kind of like spending behavior, and especially in instances where people would say, listen, I'm an impulse buyer. I can't help. I know things are difficult. I am trying to stick to my budget, but I just find myself, you know, going overboard. So what would you say informs some of this behavior? Do we have like traumas that maybe we need to get that sorted out so that we stick, you know, to our budget? And this is as far as discipline is concerned.
And that's a very good idea. I mean, so one, and I've mentioned this before, so one, it could be like social media, what other people see, what their friends on social media or other people are doing, and you kind of want to live up to that lifestyle, so that is one. The other thing is having financial goals. So the problem with that, or rather, problem with not having a financial goal is you don't have a direction, So for instance, a financial goal can be something as simple as, in the next like 5 years, I want to own a home, in the next, you know, like this amount of money, I want to do this and that. And when you have such a goal, it will actually inform your current, you know, money decisions. So for instance, if you have such a goal, you'll ensure that I have to make some sacrifices right now for the benefit
delayed
of
gratification.
Precisely, delayed gratification.
I hear you. All right, and we'll come back to that question of Sasa. Sometimes it's hard, delayed gratification, and nobody wants that. No, we want the easier way out, right? But then how do we build that discipline towards that? And that is enjoy the delayed gratification, because what's coming after is something that, you know, something to celebrate. But the question that we asked in that is, how then do we build a financial discipline in this instant gratification era? That is the question that we asked you. And a lot of people have a lot of things to say, all right? For example, John Mwangi on Facebook very quickly says, our systems, whole paragraph, all right, says, our systems and the systems of the world has taught masses that a person's well-being, happiness, and acceptability must be centered on material possessions. And this has birthed a savage and strange quest and mad rush for acquisition and amassing a kind of consumerism mindset that has yoked people to an eternal state of financial repression and condemnation. Building a financial discipline is not a brick and mortar stuff. It must be entrenched in our education system and taught extensively in all levels of our education. Our society values and systems must be taught in churches, marketplaces, mosques, homes, everywhere. But the downside of this is that some of the avenues have been established on financial indiscipline, and their catch line is etched on instant gratification. Well, something to absolutely think about and ponder on as we go on the break. But again, remember, you can engage with us at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter is how you can reach us, or give us a call. The numbers are down on your screen, but we'll be looking more on your feedback after the break. Stay with us. This is your world. But if you have a question for Mumbi or Juliet, again, feel free to send them our way. See you shortly.
What made you decide to become a doctor?
Because my father needed one. And you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be happy like you.
Life insured is love assured.
Nenda hospitalini ukapimwe. Ikibainika ya kwamba ni TB, utapewa dawa, na ukimeza vizuri ulivyoshauriwa na daktari, utapona. TB yaweza kuangamiza jamii yako. Usikubali. Matibabu ni bila malipo katika hospitali zote za serikali.
With Glovo, you have anything you want from your city in your hands. Kama unatamani ugali beef ama fried chicken, order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. Tamu. Kama game inawaka na unataka drinks zaidi, order Glovo ushangilie timu yako. Na kama your little one amemess na diaper zimeisha, order Glovo and save the day. With Glovo unaweza track order yako na kuongea na customer support, which is always available. Download the app and order anything you want from your city. We'll deliver.
In your paper this week, Rwanda back in United States fold. In a deal brokered by Qatar, a compromise was reached to help Kigali avoid sanctions while the United States put pressure on DR Congo over FDLR threat. Ugandan troops' rules of engagement in DRC spelled out. Pressure mounts on Raila and Ruto to hold talks. Plus our opinion leaders. East Africa needs the corrupt and unprincipled politicians to keep doing what it does best. Charles Onyango Obo. Quacks, thieves, cheats on the loose. To whom shall we turn? Generali Ulimengu. Kenya rolls out red carpet for United States investors. Magazine. Who's listening to us? Africa's youth feel they aren't hard in decision making. For these and more stories, get your copy of the East African.
Micro, small and medium-sized businesses are a vital cog in the engine that is Kenya's economy. There are an estimated 8.4 million such businesses spread across the country. They contribute an estimated 30% of total economic output and employ an estimated 15 million Kenyans. Unfortunately, 7 out of 10 micro, small and medium-sized businesses closed within the first 3 years of operations. How can you place the sustainability of these businesses at the heart of Kenya's economic agenda? NTV brings you Thamani, a weekly show focusing on the micro, small and medium-sized business landscape in Kenya. Thamani, showcasing resilience and exploring scalability.
Across a career that has spanned 47 years, Roy Hodgson has been manager of 22 different teams, bossing 2 clubs twice. Of the clubs Hodgson returned to, one was Inter Milan. The other is Crystal Palace, not quite of Inter's stature, but always big enough in Roy Hodgson's heart to continue his football love affair.
Cascadia Apartments at Two Rivers Development in Nairobi with an Easter offer of 500,000 shillings discount. Price start from 9.2 million. Call us today on 0742 342 722 or text Cascadia to 22365.
Welcome back. The show is Your World, and of course today it's all about managing instant gratification to boost our financial health. And of course before we went on a break, we're trying to figure out, so then first of all, how do we build the discipline, and what qualifies as instant gratification? Because again, it's different for different people in terms of how then we approach this, and how then do we, familiar through the delayed gratification so that we celebrate later. Or I think Juliet and Mumbi, that you guys will tell us how that do we do that. But the question that we're asking you, and that is, how do we build financial discipline in this instant gratification era? That is the question. And like I said, at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, is how you can reach us there. You have the question of the day, that is, how do we build financial discipline? And this is in this instant gratification era. I have a couple of feedback as well. So Joseph Ndiritu on Facebook says, live within your means and avoid pressure from friends, relatives, and social media. This because of the social media, social media thingy is really bringing a lot of problems, all right? And then Martin Muruki says, kila mtu na maisha yake. Sasa 350 watoto wako shule, chakula kwa nyumba, pesa ya rent, munisaidie juu hata award bob kusave ni shida, madeni all over. And I think this is one of the things that people would say or struggle a lot, and there's so much, but then again the income, like he said, is, you know, it's very little. So then how do I balance the same? And then someone else says, look for more money and reduce expenses. Right? Side hustles here or there. And then someone else says budgeting, it's important. And then someone else says very quickly, the last one before we continue with the conversation, someone actually is asking, how will it be possible, because you save 20K but a problem emanates that requires 40,000 shillings? How do you do that? Okay, Mubi, do you want to take that? What do you do?
It's very tough, and to be honest, I think one of the things that we have realized is, for a lot of Kenyans, especially when they have an emergency, that's one of the worst income shocks that people get.
All right.
Because even if you've saved, then you get an emergency that exceeds the amount you've saved.
Yes.
Then you find that those are the instances where people actually resort to credit.
Okay.
And one of the things that I always maintain is credit is not bad. Credit is all about how you, if you understand the principles of responsible borrowing, and you're borrowing within your means.
All right.
What does that mean? If you're borrowing money, then you need to at least have a sense of how you'll repay that money.
Yeah.
Because if then you don't understand that, then it becomes tougher for you to actually pay back. Then secondly, it's just understanding the concepts of, you know, this new world of financial literacy, as I like to call it, where the more you build a relationship with your lender, the better the rates you get. So for example, with Tala, the lower the interest rates you get, the higher the loan limits you get. So you find that even as you borrow, the cost of credit is not as high, due to a concept called risk-based pricing, which Kenyans will start to see a lot more of. Where the interest that you actually pay becomes variable based on your repayment habits. So long story short is that will happen, and that happens. And we've seen so many customers actually tell us very beautiful stories of how Tala came through for them. A story I like to tell is a customer who reached out to us and just told us that, you know, they were stuck outside Kenyatta Hospital. The kid was sick. You know, you have the money that you had, but it's not enough. And then they just went on the Tala app and actually got a loan. So in such an instance, it actually helps to bridge that income deficit in the immediate, and then they can figure out, okay, how do I then repay that? And that now becomes some of the value that credit brings to Kenyans.
Right, so that there's no way that, you know, they can reach you. All right, and let's get more feedback as well, as far as the question that we asked, which is very simple. All right, and that is, how do we build a financial discipline in this instant gratification era? Let's continue with the feedback, and this is Kimutai, who says, pay yourself first, meaning savings before expenses. Have a place where you put your savings, set a savings target, and every time you earn, channel the money to your savings before budgeting for other expenses. That is very interesting. All right. And then Liza says, discipline is paramount. You don't save 10 viboko every month. Is that what they're saying? Officers spare, you know, the road and spoil the economy. Okay, all right, a very interesting, you know, approach to go through. All right, and then someone says, this is Chesengenyi Mutai, says, with high inflations and taxations, financial discipline is unbuildable. Okay, and of course, I'd want you to comment on that, you know, Juliet. And then very quickly, Douglas Lutome says, by delaying instant gratification and assuming you are in your own world, doing what is best for you that aligns with your goals and anticipation. All right. And then someone else says, you need self-discipline, no impulse. I think they meant impulse. No impulse buying, and have a vision and a mission to accomplish. All right. But do you want to respond to what, someone said that with high inflation and taxation, financial discipline is unbuildable? I think maybe, address that a little bit, but you want to also contribute to the same?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, just commenting on that statement, financial discipline is unbuildable. It speaks to the kind of mindset that we as Kenyans have, like that notion of like something is impossible. That means you haven't even exploited the possibility of it happening, and you've already, like written it off. So the first step of financial freedom is a change in mindset. You being able to tell yourself, with the little that I have, I can actually do something with it. And then also going forward and asking yourself, with this little that I have, how can I build on it? How more can I build my income? And one of doing it, and I think someone had already mentioned, one, it's either reducing your expenses or growing your income, or you can even do them correspondingly. So change in mindset, just stripping off that statement, financial discipline is unbuildable. We need to change our perspective, first of all, and mindset, like you say, and then, all those things will help. Okay. There's something else, and that is, then would you, our indiscipline, right? Would you say that is as a result of, number one, how we, like growing up, how we were, what is the word? English. Like our relationship with money. Yes, socialized with money. Like you think money, you think it's evil, and all those things. Or maybe it comes from trauma where there was not enough in the family. So you grew up knowing money is never enough, or money is never there. So, and that aspect of mindset where it is unbuildable, it's, all those things because of how, we were brought up and all those things. I'd want to hear what you have to say. But let's go more on to look at more on the comments. As far as the question, that is, how do we build financial discipline in this instant gratification era? A lot of you still have a lot to say, all right? So someone says, this is actually Justino says, don't ever blame someone for not having a disciplined saving. It is you who do not have flow of income. With those with little cash flow, have an insurance policy, and you will automatically get tax relief. All right. And then someone has a recommendation. I would recommend you guys to read The Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey. But Paul, let's just go back a little bit and hear what Paul says. Okay, someone says situation is tough and rough, does not allow us to speak on the same. But just going down, there's a comment. Yes, Paul says, it's definitely a challenge. I think one way to build financial discipline is to set specific goals for yourself and create a plan to achieve them. This can help you stay focused and motivated even when the temptation to indulge in instant gratification arises. Additionally, tracking your spending and creating a budget can help you stay accountable and make more intentional financial decisions. I like that. And of course, both of you have attributed, to the same. So before, that question, Juliet, right? In terms of then how, what brings about, this whole cases of indiscipline, right? Is it trauma? Is it, that we're not just able to help ourselves out? But there are a group of people who, and I'm asking you this, Mumbi, because you said it's good to have a budget and have a clear-cut budget in terms of what goes where and all those things. But pay right? Pay yourself first, which is important. But we have these people who are just because they're trying to save. Because again, you never know what's going to happen in the future. I might lose my job, I might lose my business, and all those things. So, and I'm sure you've come across, such people. And we wouldn't say they are indisciplined. It's just, there's a word for it. There's a financial word for the same way. Hoarding, I would say, maybe like hoarding, all the cash. You just want to, every time ukiangalia your balance, either in your bank or, you just want to see your money there. So you're not investing, you're not doing all those things. You just want to see your money there. Where would you place this category of people? Because they're not indisciplined, they're not overspending. If anything, they're not even spending.
They're underspending.
Yes.
But I think that's a bit of an interesting one. And I would say one of the things that I've found to be very enlightening is thinking about people in their different almost not income behavior, but I would say spending behavior brackets.
Yes.
So I would say there's no bad way or good way. It's almost to each their own.
True.
So if that makes you happy, that's okay, because probably them seeing the money in the account is what makes them happy, and they don't have that many other things to spend on.
But they're not growing.
That was actually my second point.
Yeah.
However, I always think it's never wise to put your money in a place where your money is not growing.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, inflation means your money is worth less.
Yes.
Every single day.
True.
So you want to put your money in a place where your money is actually going to be growing. I'm not a big believer in leaving your money in your bank account. Leverage money market funds. You can always put your money in a place like CIC or Genghis or Nabo, and there's so many other good examples. There are startups like Core that actually allow you to earn interest daily on your savings. So when you need that money, you'll still get it. You can withdraw it any day.
See it, but it's
growing. But it's growing.
Okay.
Every single day you keep it there, you're earning interest.
Okay.
So I'd say that way you gain a lot more value, because at the end of the year you have maybe anywhere between 8% to 10% growth on your money.
Okay.
So even if the inflation rate is at 6%, 7%, now it's of course much higher.
Yeah, now it's
but at least your money is growing. So your money is not of less value every single day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Our traumas, how we were socialized as far as money is concerned, because you're big on, you need to change your mindset first of all, so that you're able to, have a healthy way of approaching money, and also, discipline and stay disciplined and stay focused as far as your money is concerned. Yeah.
Okay. So spending behaviors can also be attributable to the traumas that we had like growing up. And so for instance, and you just mentioned this, like if I grew up in a family where we didn't have a lot, then I can look at it in two ways. I can either, like, once I get the money, I'll be on a spending spree because I never got it, so I need to live the life. And I can also look at as this, like, we never had a lot, so I'll try and, use the little that I have. Even if I'm earning a lot, I'll still use the little I have to, be sustainable or to sustain myself. So there are two angles to it. But needless to say, that you just need to be really self-aware, and you need to know yourself, understand yourself, and how you approach money. I think that is the first step to, like, financial freedom and financial independence. And the question about, like, there are people who are very stringent on themselves, and they're like, I'm all about saving, and I can't. So there's a formula that we use in budgeting, which is the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% goes to the necessary expenditures, 30% it can go to the ones, the having fun and stuff, and then 20% can go towards saving. So we're not saying that you shouldn't live. No, you only live once.
I mean, you work hard for that money.
Precisely, So what you're saying is you just being able to plan and delaying that gratification.
Okay, and it will help you, along the way. So just in case someone is watching us and thinking, listen, Mimi, and Koko Chini already sank, gone, disappeared, as far as discipline is concerned, instant gratification. I see Juliet with the latest phone, I want it. I see Mobi with a really good shoe, I want it. I see someone, on social media with, I don't know, the latest wig or whatever it is, I want it, right? How do I help myself? How do I salvage myself and get to this level where there's a bit of balance? Because again, life is about balance, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll let her talk more about that. But I think one thing I'd like to tackle is actually over indebtedness.
That's the thing.
Because I think one of the comments you read from someone here, they were saying Madeni left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So this is actually quite a true phenomenon. And fun fact for everyone, we actually have 300 plus digital lenders in the market. So starting from a place where in 2014 we probably had zero. So you can imagine Kenyans got to a place where they had immense access to credit. Without the financial education being something that grew in the same way. So if I think about someone who's heavily over indebted right now, maybe because of some of those reasons, and one other data point to mention is we know that currently only 4 in 10 lenders, only 4 in 10 borrowers are using one lender. So I mean, 6,
like you said,
majority are using
all of this.
Yeah, you have multiple loans.
Yes.
And it could be for multiple reasons, but just in the sense of like instant gratification, I think for me it starts from a place of get back to net zero.
Okay.
Prioritize your income over the next couple of months, and it means you might have to tighten the belt in a few places, but you know, just work your way back to net zero so that you can get your finances back within your control. By that I mean, you know, you're putting a lot more money into repaying the debt that you have. Most of the time it's not even digital lenders, it's your friends, it's your shopkeeper. Actually, shopkeepers are the largest lenders in this market, and that's data from FSD.
That's true.
Kenya. So you find that, you know, take time to get back to net zero in your income, and then now from there you can actually now go back to the principles that we've been talking about, where you can now budget, save, etc. to now be able to plan for your future, and then make sure you put also money aside for your emergencies.
And if you have to borrow, again, like you said, make sure it's something substantial, first of all, and also have a plan for repaying, because a lot of people, this is where borrowing is not a problem. So I have more than 50 lending apps on my phone. So borrowing is not a problem, but then do I intend to pay? That is usually, you know, one of the biggest challenges that even you guys face, right?
100%.
Right? And like you said earlier on, credit is not bad. It depends on how then, you know, you're using this, and it can help you to even access higher, you know, amounts. But the big chunk of the same is, what are you doing with this money that you're borrowing? Not borrow to go to sherehe, you know, just because if I don't go, FOMO, you know, FOMO kicks in and all those things. Okay, how do we help ourselves? If, you know, tumenda uko chini kabisa, I can't help it. Nikitembea kwa streets, that's how I see some. I can't help it. If I don't have the money, I can easily access it, you know, from wherever it is, even if it means borrowing. How do we save ourselves?
Okay, so first of all is not lost. Like, there's still hope.
There's still hope.
There's still hope. Yeah, so long as, like, I mean, every day above the ground is a blessing, so there's still hope. Now, the first thing, like, towards emancipating yourself from that is you recognize your that being self-aware that yes, I have a problem in this is where I'm at, and the next thing is now to start planning, or rather looking forward and seeing, okay, fine, so I'm already indebted, so how do I go from there? So the first thing, as you say, going to net zero, and that is going to your finances, just taking time, looking at, this is the income that is coming in, and this is what I have been spending on, and telling yourself, so if out of these expenses that I've been spending on, is there something that I can do without? And sometimes that will amount to, you know, the 50-30 rule. You really, the 30%, you even doing away with it for you, just to ensure that you're, you know, you've created more money avenues through like living within your means. So going and being so intentional about it, expenses, looking at, so what am I doing wrong, what am I doing right, and adjusting accordingly. The other thing is, if you're indebted, there are like, and someone has recommended The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. It's a very good book on how you can start managing debt and how you can start, you know, like, and one of my friends gave me this tip, like, you can even start with a small debt, you know, like the ones with the low interest, and paying that, because once you finish that, it will give you that satisfaction of, I'm starting to conquer, you know, and it will give you that motivation. So it's just the little things that will go a long way. Ultimately.
And then for someone who has never really understood this whole concept of saving, but then again, do not let your money just stay in the bank, and go find ways that you can also grow your money and all those things, you know. So we're saving ourselves from, you know, bad debts, you know, and all those things. But also, staying consistent is where, it's a bit of a challenge. Month 1, well and good. Month 2, we're trying. Month 3, next month, and then, you know, that's the end of the same. How do we do that? You'll contribute to the same. But then again, this whole aspect about bad debts and good debts and maneuvering, you know, all this, just to make sure that, you know, yes, we're staying on track, tunalipa deni zetu, but, you know, just have the financial muscle and discipline to, you know, stay on track, even if I need a debt, I know, you know, that yes, I can easily get it, but I also need to have that plan for repayment. So I think it's a bit of an interesting one when you talk about good debt. What is good debt and bad debt? I think people tend to put it in very clear brackets.
where, for example, we say business is good debt, but sherehe is bad debt.
Bad debt, yeah.
I think it can be a bit more complicated than that, because it always comes back to income ability. Because you can imagine if I'd put 10% aside for a hobby of mine, then maybe I had an emergency and had to take that aside, and then I decided to take credit and do something, like take part in that hobby, but I know that my income can well over cover that, then that becomes a very different situation. But if you compare that with someone who truly takes the credit and has no idea how that will be repaid, then that's where it gets complicated. So just to get a bit technical, so how does, for example, a company like Tala make decisions on who to give loans?
Who to give and who not to
because you'll notice that not everyone will always get a loan. And that's actually part of our responsibility as a responsible lender, because we're a very mission-driven company. So for us, we look at three things. Fraud, of course, we have to make sure you are who you say you are. It's unsecured lending. Then the other thing is we call ability. Ability is we'll use your data to understand, you know, can Winnie actually pay back the loan that we give her, and make sure that we're never giving you a loan more than your income or more than we know you can be able to repay. And that is actually why you see a lot of core Tala customers have been with Tala for years, because we'll always give you a limit that it's at par with the income that we know you have, and even the other loans that you potentially have with other lenders, because we always ask, do you have other loans with other lenders? And we also balance that out. Then the third thing is willingness, which is what you're sharing, we're talking about earlier. We've built a way of understanding willingness to repay, and notice like a few trends here and there of customers who will tend to show that willingness to repay. So for us, provided this, you know, these three things are true, then we're able to give credit, and we believe that customers have agency over what they'll use their loans for. But now, because of that, how selective we've been, you start to see how our customers use their credit, which, to be honest, has been to increase their income.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we need, because again, like we said, inflation, the economy over the roof, you know, and all those things. So how can you know, help yourselves in terms of, you know, building the extra income? But then a question for you as lenders then, so how can you contribute towards making sure that, because I understand, yes, it's business for you guys, but there's also this other responsibility of you know, educating people on responsible borrowing, so that we don't find ourselves you know, in the dark. We honestly just don't know how we can help ourselves and all those things. So do you want to contribute to that, and then I'll come back to you?
And I love that question, because I think that's one of the bigger learnings we had since we were in the market in 2014, and then fast forward to 2016, we realized that financial education had changed. Because now customers were moving into a realm where you know, all their financial tools exist on their phone, and understanding how to use them, how to even know who's a good lender, what's a good rate, how should I be borrowing, etc. So I'll speak more specifically to Tala, because first thing is, I mentioned over the last 4 years, every March we have something called Money March that is just focused on personal finance and consumer education. So we do a lot of you know, workshops with Centonomy for customers. We actually put out a lot of content. Then and actually you can call Tala and get a free personal finance coach anytime. So that's part of the services that we normally offer. Then in addition to that, I think we're the only lender where the middle button in our app is a Learn Center. So if you check that Learn Center, they have we have courses on budgeting, saving, investing, the whole 9 yards, and also blogs and content. So if you don't even know where to get started, just download the Tala app. You don't need to take a loan. Just go to the Learn Center. You'll find all the tools you need there. And last thing to mention is, for people in Biashara, we actually have a Biashara community where we actually you know, give different tips and tools on how to manage your businesses, and do different workshops with again the likes of Centonomy for these businesses. So for us, I think we understood that being in the business of you know, if we want to be your financial partner, we have to be with you along the way, and that means we have to give you the tools to help you manage your money and understand how to borrow.
So that you don't have to to call other people's parents and relatives like Nani borrowed and they have not.
And to clarify, we do not call. Okay. So that's actually one of the challenges that came up with digital lending, because there were no rules around how this was to be done. So you found a lot of rogue lenders doing that. But if that happens to you, it's a breach of your privacy. Right? And so please report. But you can, if you're working with any CBK licensed lender such as Talent, they're now 32, then you should be okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then staying consistent, because Sawa, I have learned I need to have a budget. Flexible, because again things happen, and also staying consistent so that we build, you know, the discipline, because like we said, it's one thing to have a budget, but it's another thing to stay consistent and, you know, stay disciplined. So then how do we ensure that you know, that happens even as we bring this to a close?
Consistency is the key to success, and in this case consistency is the key to financial freedom. So how I look at it is, first of all, you need to have a financial goal, because and that will kind of give you the guidance and help you not derail, because at the end of the day you'll be like, there's something that I'm looking forward to and this is what I need to do for me to get there. So without a financial goal, it wouldn't really help you that much. The other thing is we have other avenues on how you can do that. For instance, in terms of saving, like automating your savings, or just you know, saying like, at the end of every month, if I'm receiving this amount of money, X amount will, you know, go at, you know, whatever money market fund or savings account that you want it to go to. So also having like, automated savings, and also having like a dedicated day within the month whereby it's 5th. Then this is when I'm supposed to send